There you can see Felix Rosenqvist, who's now this season a three-time race winner, holding at pole position. Charles Leclerc, who has also been a race winner alongside him. We've had 5 different winners this year. Felix has taken the most wins now. He's become the first driver this season to take 3 race victories. Charles Leclerc has had a couple of wins as well. We had a win for the British driver George Russell in his home race in the UK at Silverstone on his maiden weekend of the championship, which was very impressive. Jake Dennis taking the 2 wins at Poe, and of course the championship leader Antonio Giovinazzi, who starts on the second row of the grid, had a couple of wins, one at Hockenheim, a great move around the outside of Felix Rosenqvist, and perhaps slightly fortuitously with the win at Poe, the 3rd race of the weekend after Jake Dennis had a problem with the car, the suspension failing within 5 minutes of the checkered flag, having led every race lap throughout the whole weekend. But to his credit, Giovinazzi was there to pounce and take a historic victory, the Italian driver. So our first glimpse this afternoon, as the sun gets a bit lower around this spectacular 5.8 kilometre long circuit. Through the speed traps, the quicker drivers, Michele Beretta being the quickest down the speed trap, setting 266 kilometres an hour. Interestingly, the race winner, Felix Rosenqvist, was one of the slowest through the speed trap at 250 kilometres an hour, some 16 kilometres an hour slower than the faster times. Some of that, I'm sure, can be put down to the fact that being at the front, he was the only one who wasn't ever really picking up a toe from somebody else, and that just goes to show how much slipstreaming effect can have here. So the race earlier on was won by Felix Rosenqvist, Mikkel Jensen 2nd, Jake Dennis on the podium in 3rd, Antonio Giovinazzi was 4th, Charles Leclerc was 5th, Raoul Hyman had a fabulous drive to take his first points of the season in 6th place, and Pietro Fittipaldi, who broke his hand 2 weeks ago at Poe and is driving with a strap on his left hand, taking painkillers, but it's not giving him too much in the way of problems, he said, certainly not when he's in the car. He had a great drive to 7th place as well to pick up his first points. And his grandfather, Emerson Fittipaldi, 2 times Formula 1 world champion, is here this weekend, and he's actually going to present some of the trophies on the podium. There is a rookie podium for the top 3 rookies, as well as an overall podium. So there's this chance that Fittipaldi Senior could be presenting a trophy to Fittipaldi Junior a little bit later on at the end of this race. George Russell, Brandon Mazzano and Arjun Maini were the other drivers to finish in the points in race number 1. And with all the excitement, didn't really get time to talk to you about the lap times. The fastest lap in race number 1 went to Charles Leclerc with a 1 minute 44.082, and that's, in the modern era of Formula 3, is a new lap record, surpassing the time set by Pascal Wehrlein, who races DTM these days, who set a time about 0.7 of a second slower than that 2 years ago when last the championship came to this circuit. Jake Dennis, who starts from 4th on the grid, will be hoping that he doesn't come across too many insects in this race. Showed me his visor at the end of the race. He said he hit the biggest bug he's ever come across in his life, and there was a huge splat mark on his visor. He hasn't got any tear-off strips with him this weekend, and it was right in his eye line, this splatted bug on his visor, so he was having to drive along, trying to lick the back of his glove to wipe the visor clear. All of this while he was driving at, what, 280 kilometres an hour. Pretty impressive how calm these drivers are. So there is the grid, almost ready to go for the 2nd race of the weekend. Felix Rosenqvist on pole position, Charles Leclerc alongside a winner here in Formula Renault last season. The yellow car, 2nd back on the right, is the championship leader, Antonio Giovinazzi, for the Giugogna IM with Carlin team. The Prema Power team haven't had a 1-2 finish so far this season, but they are leading the team standings. Felix and Jake Dennis 1st and 3rd in the race earlier on. Charles Leclerc is the leader of the rookie standings. Those are the top 4. The green flag is waved at the back of the field. Revs rise, and the 11th race of the season gets underway here at Monza. It looks like they're all got off the line, apart from one at the very, very back of the field, who was stalled but now finally got going. At the head of the field, Rosenqvist with another very good start, the experienced Swede. Charles Leclerc had some bad starts at Poe. He's had to work on them. He's had a decent start, but Jake Dennis comes alongside him. There's a bit of wheel banging between them. And damaged front left wheel to Charles Leclerc. There was 2 bits of contact there, one through the first part of the first chicane, one through the second part of it, between Dennis and Leclerc. And Dennis has got through to 2nd place, but Charles Leclerc pulls off in the background with a problem, and there's another bit of contact there in the background, and that looks like Tatiana Calderon, who's had a full 360 there. There was contact contact with another car. Another one hit her as she span around. But Dennis there squeezing through to second place. Another one of the Muka Motorsport cars, I think, running straight on at the next chicane. So it's all drama here throughout second gear, Prima Variante. Chicane they go, and they'll head now towards the Lesmo section. This fourth gear, double right-hander. Flat out into the corner, turn in and then brake through that section, and then through the very quick back part of the circuit they will go. Variante Scara, the quicker chicane at the fourth gear, that one is taken. And then the long run up towards the final turn at Parabolica, and safety car is being deployed. That is why the yellow flags are waving. It comes up on the screen to confirm that. Safety car being deployed because there are one or two dramas further back. Looks like Jack Dennis's car is okay for the time being, but there was a fair impact between the two cars. Jack Dennis's Prima car, the number 2 machine, and the stricken car of Charles Leclerc, who is out of the race. And it means that Charles Leclerc, second in the championship, this will be the first time all season he hasn't finished a race. He's had one race outside of the points. That was at Silverstone, who dropped to the back of the field, had a puncture after contact with George Russell, came back and finished 12th. But he's finished every race so far. So he's a replay. So Dennis had a good start, sort of clattering over the curves with Charles Leclerc trying to hold his position. Then he hit the right rear of Jake Dennis to the front left of Charles Leclerc's car, which immediately absorbed the impacts, and the wheel bent up, and already his race was done by the time he got through the first chicane. And then more incidents further back, one or two missing the chicane, and then Tatiana Calderon got a big hit there, a big impact, and just trying to work out which car that was that hit her, Calderon, and sent her into a spin and then into more strife. Definitely looked like she got a tag on the way. Now that's the number 26 car, which is Ryan Tvetter, one of the Chigonia IAM cars. That is the unfortunate Colombian Tatiana Calderon, who was a regular point scorer in the second half of last season. She switched teams to the very well-respected Carlin team this season, the VW-powered car. Carlin, 9 times British Formula 3 championship winners. But things have not quite worked, for whatever reason, for Tatiana so far this season. And she hasn't been anywhere near the points. It's been a very frustrating start to the season for her after a very positive end to 2014. So there are our front runners. There in third place is the number 27 car of Mikkel Jensen, looking for his second podium of the day. And when asked if he was pleased with the podium, he said yes, but I want to move forward and look towards getting our first race win. So he's not just here to make up the numbers. Mikkel Jensen, the Danish driver, used to winning, having taken 9 wins in the Formula Masters Championship last year. And he said he wouldn't say what it was, but he said they had an issue with the car which had hindered their progress for the first few rounds of the championship. They'd solved that now, and to be fair, it seems to be flying now, the KFZ Tyler Muka Motorsport car. Third in the race at the moment, second earlier on. Ferrucci going well as well in 4th place. Lance Stroll's made a good start. He's in 5th position, so he's gained 3 places in this one. Of course, one of them being Charles Leclerc, who's out of the race. Antonio Giovinazzi went backwards. He's down to 6th place. And then his teammate, Gustavo Meneses, looks like he's made a decent start from 10th on the grid. The American is up to 7th place. We saw a first podium in his maiden F3 championship for another driver at Po, that being a second place finish for Max Gunther. He had a disappointing qualifying 1 and a disappointing first race, but he's in points again. He's in 8th place. So another Muka car going well. 9th is Pietro Fittipaldi, and Brandon Bazzano in the points again at the moment in the early stages of this race, running in 10th position. So we lost Leclerc. Arjun Maini was the driver that Tatiana Calderon speared into as she was hit. And Leclerc is out. The others are still in the race, but Calderon, at least her having pitted. So the safety car is coming in this lap, and Felix Rosenqvist, with all this experience, bunching the field up. When he was following him and following on the restart, Santino Ferrucci said, I learnt a lot from Felix when I was following him about the lines through the corners and also about how to put together a restart. So he's bunching them right up. They can't go till he goes. They can't overtake till they get to the start-finish line. And now, as they head into the Parabolica, he will begin to sprint away, and Jake Dennis will try and go with him, but you can you can never really do anything about them. If they put a good start together like that, you can't hit the accelerator until they hit the accelerator. Therefore, you're always a fraction of a second behind. And that is, once again, textbook restart from Felix Rosenqvist. Jake Dennis in third place. There's action a little bit further back, though. That is Max Gunther trying to gain a place. He's having a go at Meneses, drawing alongside him down into the first chicane, but pulls back out, then locks up, goes to the outside line, and almost makes a mistake. We've seen one or two cars running into the backs of others in the first part of the race. Partially the reason for that, Alex Albon reckons, is that when people brake a little bit earlier than they anticipate, the one behind, right behind, has to brake a bit harder. Concertina effectively 3 or 4 down the queue. Suddenly, where you still expect to be a full throttle, you're having to hit the brake. And that's what quite a few incidents into this sort of stop-start circuit with these chicanes at Monza. Running wide onto the curb there, but there are other curbs that are a bit brutal. And a nose change there for the Ecuadorian driver, William Moreno, Brown Engineering. He didn't do the third race of the weekend at Po because they had an engine drama, and rather than take 10-place grid penalties, they opted to take the car back home and sort the engine out back in the UK, so he sat out that third race. Running one in the background, I think that was Raoul Hyman, who's got much lower grid positions for this one than he had when he got 6th place finish in race number 1. He started on the second row of the grid for that one. He's having to start a long way down the order for this one in 18th position, so disappointing second qualifying session for him. Means that he'll have to work and fight very, very hard to get himself into a position to score points in this race. Ooh, big slide there from, I think it was Giovinazzi in 6th place, who almost lost it under braking, coming out of the chicane. And, not under braking, but coming out of the chicane and then towards Parabolica, losing the tail end almost. And yes, the momentum is going to cost him perhaps a position to Lance Stroll here, who draws alongside. So this is the battle for 5th position. And Lance Stroll, who has been repassed by Giovinazzi, gets the place back under braking into the first chicane. Giovinazzi, though, you can see, was already trying to fight back at him. There is the number 11 car of Fabian Schiller, which has made very good progress from 15th on the grid, and a huge, huge crash there. Barrel rolling over. That's absolutely massive, and it's Lance Stroll. Now, we saw the start of that incident. Stroll got the move on Giovinazzi into the chicane. Looked like Giovinazzi was coming back at him on the way out of the corner, but that is a massive crash. And I hope that Lance is okay. These cars are super strong. They're built to the very, very highest standards, but that was a very nasty incident indeed. Wheels made contact with one another and the car was flipped over. The safety car is coming out. Giovinazzi also out of the race. He's fine. And this is going to be the first time this season that the championship leader won't score any points. So that was a big moment. Poor Lance Stroll has been in the wars somewhat today, and that would have been a very scary ride. Just a passenger in that situation, nothing you can do. Well, it's good to see him moving in the cockpit and no doubt a little bit shaken. But the marshal's coming to check on him. Let's have a replay. Look in the background there, wheel to wheel. He's got his nose in front of Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi's almost got a wheel on the grass and then just loses grip, spears into the side of Stroll, and Stroll is just a passenger. And happily, the car landed the right way up the barriers and the fencing, the catch fencing, doing its job. But that was huge, absolutely huge. And no wonder the safety car was brought out with immediate effect. But as I say, Giovinazzi is out of the car, which is the main thing. And okay, and Stroll looked certainly as though he was conscious, talking to the marshals, and can't hear what they're saying, but it kind of looked from the body language as if he was waving to say, yeah, I'm okay, to the marshal who was there on the scene immediately. So that was absolutely massive, and that has mixed up the order somewhat behind. And luckily nobody was right behind them, otherwise there might have been more cars involved in that one. So Rosenqvist leads, Dennis is second in a race which hasn't really got going yet. Third is Jensen, fourth is Ferrucci. Up to 5th place now is Pietro Fittipaldi. In 6th is Gustavo Meneses, the American, might be on course for his best results so far this year. Brandon Bazzano is in 7th. In 8th place, we have got Maximilian Gunther. 9th is Fabian Schiller. 6th place is gained. And into the points once again is George Russell. George, who is putting a run of point-scoring finishes together. He's in the points in the top 8 in all 3 races at Pope. He was 8th again in the first race here at Monza, and he's in the points on for a 5th consecutive point-scoring finish. And he could move up into the top 5 in the championship if other results go his way. So the marshals there, who've had their work cut out so far this weekend here at Monza, wave the flags and are the eyes and ears for the drivers, really, to let them know where the incident is and to make sure they stay well clear of any shards of debris which could harm their own cars, and in particular the tyres. So we have also lost Nico Pola, Kang Ling, one of the Chinese drivers, Matt Solomon out of the race. By the looks of things, I think, as well. Or certainly at the back of the field and a few laps down. Just outside the point, got frustratingly close a couple of times in the last two races, or last two rounds, has been Sergio Sete Camara, the Brazilian driver. He's 11th, top 10 score points. And from 32nd on the grid, Dorian Boccolacci, one of the signature drivers, supported by the Lotus Junior Formula 1 programme. He's way up into 12th place. Here's another replay. So Stroll is in front. Giovinazzi's on the outside, just trying to get back on the track. And Stroll didn't know anything about that until he was launched up into the air. Neither driver really squeezing the other one, you would say, but Giovinazzi was just trying to get himself back on the track. And that's fabulous to see. That's Lance Stroll, and he's out of the car. The driver who's supported by Ferrari, the Ferrari Young Driver Academy, is out. And a horrendous couple of seconds upside down in the air for him. But it's good to see that even on an old circuit like Monza, the circuit design and the safety procedures which are in place and the barriers and the catch fencing absolutely did its job there and absorbed a lot of the impact, and the car itself protected the driver. So Premier Power Team have not had too many non-finishes, too many failures this year. One of the less busy teams in the paddock at lunchtime, with a big rebuild to do. Lance is got to probably have a few stiff muscles tomorrow morning when he wakes up. And the neck, no doubt, as well. But it looks to be okay, which is great news, out of the car on his own steam. And at the end of the day, these are high-spec, expensive bits of kit, these cars, but it's the human inside that's the most important thing. And good to see that young driver okay. And another weekend, this could have been a fabulous weekend for Lance Stroll. He's had really good pace here, and yeah, could have been in the top 5, top 6 in a couple of races, but things have not worked out that way for him. But he's certainly got good pace. An incident involving cars number 3 and 25, don't need me to tell you who they are, is being held under investigation. So the Giovinazzi Stroll incident is under investigation. Of course, those were the two that had their moment towards the end of race number 1. So whether we'll get to the full 19 laps now, I think, is a little bit doubtful with these two early safety cars. No sign as to whether the safety car is coming in yet. No, it'll be out for another lap. Somebody's heading off into the pits as well. So there's Felix Rosenqvist, who's of course seen all of this before. See Jake Dennis coming through the shot. He's not the one in the pits, is he? Dennis still showing the second on the screen. No, he's still there. So I just missed him coming through. So Dennis is still there. That's the two Muka teammates who worked hard together in qualifying 2 yesterday. They circulated for the entire 20 minutes together. Did Mikkel Jensen, the Danish driver, and Santino Ferrucci, the American driver, to try and take it in turns to give each other slipstreams, and it worked, because for this race and for the race tomorrow, they're both going to be on the 3rd row of the grid. So this mixes up the championship. We already had the drivers 3rd and 4th in the points, Rosenqvist and Dennis, outscoring the drivers 1st and 2nd in the championship. That's absolutely going to be the case now, you'd imagine, unless something even more dramatic happens, and I doubt that we can have any more drama, or certainly not to the extent that we've already had in this race. But yeah, 3rd and 4th with a real chance to close the championship right down now. 60-odd points, the difference between the top 4 in the championship. You get 25 points for a win. Rosenqvist at the moment is on for another 25. Dennis, if he stays 2nd, is on for another 18 points. And of course, the top 2 in the championship are not going to score anything in this one. They're both out of the race for their first non-finishes of the season in separate incidents. So if Rosenqvist wins this one, he'll move on to 160 points, which will be 1 more point than Charles Leclerc. So he would move back up into 2nd place in the championship. Jake Dennis is on 111. If he stays second, that will give him 129 points. So he would stay fourth in the championship, but again, he would close the gap considerably to the top two in the points. Giovinazzi is still going to lead the standings. There is Sergio Sette-Câmara in the number 23 car. The safety car light's still on, still a bit of sweeping up being done around where the incident was by the marshals to make sure there are no bits of debris on the circuit. Already made progress from further down the order. One or two have actually. Randy's made a bit of progress from 31st on the grid. The Italian's up to 18th place. Matt Rowe has also made some good progress from 30th on the grid. The number 14 Fortet car. Fortet with who he raced in the British Formula 3 Championship last year. He's up to 15th place, so he's moved halfway up the field. And could Matt Rowe maybe be on for nicking some points? Just ahead of him is another British driver, Callum Ilott, who's come straight out of karting. And it's had a tricky weekend so far. It's been his toughest weekend of the campaign to date, after a very impressive debut weekend at Silverstone. So he's 14th. You've got Marcus Palmer 13th. Boccalacci's the one that's made the most progress from 32nd, from almost last on the grid. The French driver is now up into 12th place and only a gnat's away from the points. Safety car lights are out, which means we're going to get restarted. Boccalacci, another of the quartet of 16-year-olds that we've got in the championship, another of the Lotus F1 drivers, top rookie in last year's French Formula 4 Championship. He was the runner-up overall in that series, with a couple of wins at Pau, 6 podiums. And there you can see Felix Rosenqvist then backing things up. Now, could we be on course for a first 1-2 of the season for Prema, the current team championship leaders, because their other driver, Jake Dennis, is there in second place. The much improved Muka Motorsport, back to the sort of form which took Felix Rosenqvist to second in the championship 2 years ago, are there third and fourth with their drivers Jensen and Ferrucci. Fittipaldi fifth, and Fabian Schiller going great guns for Westec in sixth place as we get the race back underway here. And as you can see, we're halfway into the time limit, so 17 minutes and change remain in the race. Rosenqvist has got the restart sorted out here. Meneses is now carrying the flag for Jagonia Ayam with Carlin in the bright yellow number 4 car, which runs in 6th place. It's a super tight chicane, that first chicane here, the Prima Variante. Went and had a look at it as the Porsches, which are racing here this weekend, ran through it earlier on towards the lunch break, and somebody else running wide there through that chicane, and it's very, very narrow on the exit. There's a big high curb on the inside. The curb on the outside is okay, you can run wide there, but it's a tight squeeze, especially for those big Porsche cars. Somebody running wide at the Variante, the Secondi Variante there in the background. But there's a lot of runoff, and it looks like that car rejoins without any dramas. Could do that another safety car for a lap or two, that would be nice. They're the front runners behaving themselves. George Russell in 9th place. Sergio Sette-Câmara is into the top 10 now, so he's into the points positions, looking for his first points of the season, the Brazilian driver, as Jake Dennis shadows Felix Rosenqvist. He admitted that he hadn't quite got the pace of Felix in the practice and in the qualifying sessions, Jake Dennis. He wasn't far away. He's a real racer, is Jake, so if he gets a chance, he'll have a go. And he's made progress. Yes, he's outscoring the top 2 in the championship, but likewise, he knows that Felix Rosenqvist is undoubtedly going to be one of his main championship rivals this year. So if he can, he wants to outscore him as well. Not to be greedy, but if a chance of a win is there, now he knows how to do it, he'll go for it. His 2 wins at Pau coming from pole position, and he's not shy to overtake. Wheel-to-wheel action here, a little bit further down the field, a little bit more wheel banging as well, coming out of Parabolica and onto the start-finish straight here. And the head of the field, no change between the top 2, 0.6 seconds between them. Mikkel Jensen there in 3rd place. Santino Ferrucci is shadowing him though, hanging on to that position. George Russell is the one taking a bumpy run over the curbs there. Those are those high curbs that I was talking about on the inside of the Prima Variante. They go down towards the 2nd chicane now. It's flat out through this right-hander at Curva Biasano, and then at about the 75-metre mark, that's when they hit the brakes at real high speed from 6th gear down to 2nd gear into this 2nd chicane. Left, then right, and then back on the throttle as they already fire themselves up towards 6th gear. Big lock up there from somebody a bit further down the order. That's number 14, that's Matt Rowe. But he's making good progress in this race, and he's not too far away from a point-scoring finish. One of the front runners in British Formula Ford in recent years, and having his first season at this level of Formula 3 competition. He's second in Formula 3, but his first at European international level, having raced in British F3 last year. Jake Dennis is hanging on to the tail of Felix Rosenqvist. They've pulled away from third and fourth. Still Mikkel Jensen in third place. At the start of this lap, I'd say he's probably edged away a little bit from Santino Ferrucci, his teammate. And they're both pulling away from the next group of cars, which we now have switched around. Thought I might have seen that in the background, and so it proves to be. It's Meneses who's got ahead of Fittipaldi. So the bright yellow Jagonia IAM car is now up a position. The team who ran Tom Blomqvist to second place in the championship last year, behind Esteban Ocon, who raced for Prema. Third in the championship last year for Van Amersfoort was, of course, Max Verstappen. Now, of Formula 1 fame, Tom Blomqvist in DTM these days, and racing this weekend over in Germany. Slipstreaming effect down these straights is absolutely huge. You get a huge tow. Not much you can do about it if you're the one giving a tow to somebody else. Squeezing down the inside, there is George Russell, and that is Meneses in the background there, bumping over the curbs and running wide at the chicane. I don't think he'll lose a place, but it won't do the car any good, that. So he's still at the head of that group. He's still running in fifth place. Russell is now into sixth place after that brave move down the inside, but trying to squeeze back alongside him. Look, it's Pietro Fittipaldi. So Fittipaldi having a big go here in the number 12 car to get the place back. More lockups, more Hankook tyres being destroyed on the way to chicanes here. But Fittipaldi couldn't get through. Now he's coming under fire from Brando Massano in the Italian tricolour colours of the Prema Power Team car, and Massano gets through. So the French driver through, having raced in Italy in Formula Abarth, Italian Formula 3 and Italian Formula 4. He'll know this place well. That was the move from the blue Carling car of George Russell, and that's a better view of Meneses getting it all wrong at the chicane. But because of what was going on behind him, because they were holding each other up, nobody was close enough to be able to pounce, and he held on to his fifth position. Some great scraps in the midfield here. Pietro Fittipaldi again involved in movement here, this time losing another place. That's to number 28 Max Gunther. So the Muka Motorsport car going forward. Prema and Muka having a good couple of laps here with their drivers moving up the order. Prema have got first and second, Muka have got third and fourth, but they both had drivers moving up higher inside the top 10 further back as well, with Massano and now Gunther, who has had, by his very high standards, a poor qualifying session this weekend. He qualified for, what was it, the last 6 races, third on the grid at Hockenheim at Po, but a lot further down the grid for this weekend. That's Boccolacci in the black Lotus colours there, the signature car, trying to squeeze up a position and get himself into the top 10. Fittipaldi has dropped to the tail end of the top 10 now. Boccolacci trying to get down the inside of the Muka car. There's a bit of contact there, and Gunther is sent into a spin. He's facing the wrong way. He's got a load of cars coming at him. Hold tight, squeeze in. Another one going off in the background with a separate incident there at the first chicane. Looks okay, but that's gone straight off into the barriers and out of the race. I think it might be Michele Beretta, looking at the colours of the car and the position of the car relative to the pattern that we saw. It was in the background, a little bit difficult to make out. I think it might be Michele Beretta, who crossed the line in 18th place. That's the latest victim of the chicanes here. So not such a good lap for Muka Motorsport that time. Their third and fourth drivers in strife, but they have still got drivers third and fourth. There is number 27, Mikkel Jensen, just about a length clear of Ferrucci, and the safety car is being deployed for the third time in the race. I wasn't sure we'd get anywhere near the level of drama that we had in race number 1. I think we've probably matched it, haven't we, with what we've seen so far in this race. Certainly that huge barrel roll for Lance Stroll. That would be one they look back on time and time again. So here is the other, it's Kang Ling. Was the other Muka car, or was this another incident with the Muka car? It's Kang Ling, the Chinese driver, who went around qualifying yesterday, part of it with the front nose detached. So he had a moment, but he wasn't the one that went in the barriers. So maybe it was Beretta. Oh, whew, and a big incident there. That was Boccolacci making contact with Seti Kamara. And Kamara launched up into the air. This was then Gunther over the curbs. As he was squeezed, he had no choice really but to go over the curbs, and they're so high there, so razor sharp, that the car bottomed out and he was sent into the spin. Boccolacci trying to squeeze up the inside, just sort of shouldering him out of the way, and then the curbs did the rest of the damage. Then in the background, the camera stays on it long enough, you might see another car going off into the barriers as well. Gunther holding tight there, hoping nobody went into the side of him. And yeah, there went the other car off into the barriers in the background. And certainly Beretta has dropped down the order, so I'm pretty sure it was him now, who we saw. We didn't see the incident, we just saw the tail end of it. Prima Power team trying to make sense of all this on the pit wall, the Italian team, with all this success. Felix Rosenqvist has not really come under threat yet from Jake Dennis, but it's worth remembering that on quite worn tyres, Jake Dennis was very, very quick for the last 4 or 5 laps of race number 1, so don't count him out just yet. There is a better view of the Beretta incident, and that again was contact with wheels. Oh, he actually rolled over. Now, we didn't see that from the other angle. We just saw the car, what ended up in the barriers. We didn't see how he got to the barriers, and we certainly didn't see that he was the second driver in this race to flip up in the air and barrel roll. And again, thankfully, the car landed the right way up. Well, it was a shortened lunch break for some of the mechanics here between races 1 and 2. You get the feeling that tea and supper and maybe even breakfast might be cancelled for 1 or 2 of these mechanics, because it's a long, late night ahead to get some of these cars fixed and back out for the 3rd race towards the end of tomorrow morning, late tomorrow morning here at Monza. Bit of a case of survival, this. If you can get through the race, you might just get some points. Wei Cao, the Chinese driver, picked up his best result of the season so far with 14th place. Not one of the quicker drivers out there, but he stayed out of trouble, marched up the order and finished not too far away from the points, the 2014 British F3 champion. And Sam McLeod is another one that's shot up the order here, worked his way through all the drama, and another British F3 racer in 12th place, the Edinburgh-based man. So he's not far off the points either. So we've got Rosenqvist in the lead, Dennis 2nd, Jensen 3rd, Ferrucci 4th, Meneses 5th, Russell is 6th, Mazzano is 7th, Pommer is 8th, 9th is Boccalacci, fabulous drive from almost last on the grid from 32nd position, and Fittipaldi is there in 10th position, just about in the points, but having dropped a few places. As you can see, the safety car has extinguished its lights. That's the signal to the drivers that we're about to get racing back up to full speed, and there'll be less than 7 minutes on the clock by the time they get to the start-finish line. So just trying to keep the heat in the tyres is Felix Rosenqvist. He said in the press conference after race 1 that he'd had an issue with the clutch, and at one point he thought the race might be over and he might have to head to the pits. He had some clutch slip, but he drove around the problem. It got a little bit better as the race went on. And because others behind him were fighting so hard, even though he had a car which wasn't 100%, he was able to win the race. Hopefully, from his point of view, no more dramas with the car, but he runs very, very wide coming out through Parabolica as he got on the throttle there. Luckily, Jake Dennis wasn't right behind him. Otherwise, Jake might have had a run into the first chicane here, but a bit too keen on the throttle there was Rosenqvist. 2nd is Dennis. 3rd with a good restart is Mikkel Jensen. There he is, number 27. And he's close enough maybe to pick up a toe. Stripy flags are out, so that denotes a slippery surface ahead. Jensen closes up, under braking on the way into the first chicane, but doesn't get a place. Ferrucci, that was the scene of his demise in race number 1. He's still there in 4th position. Everybody else filtering their way through. Raoul Hyman is not far away from the points, having had a lowly grid position. He's crossed the line in 12th place. So Raoul Hyman in the blue and red Westech car, number 38, not far away. There in the Castrol colours is Sam McLeod in 11th place now, and desperate to get hold of some points, having picked up points at Pau a couple of weeks ago, but also had a bit of a rough end to the weekend with that collision with the stricken Jake Dennis car in race number 3. So there they work their way out of the next chicane and accelerate through this fabulously quick Monza circuit. And for a change, it's all quiet for a couple of corners. There's Alessio Lorandi, 13th position, again with great progress from 31st on the grid. It'd be a shame if he gets close to the points and doesn't quite make it, but it's been a good performance from the Italian. He had 2 spins in race number 1, and Fritz van Amersfoort said the engine failure was just one of those things. When the engine went on Tuesday on the test day, there was a little bit more driver to blame for race number 2, because he didn't heed the warnings, he stayed out there, he made 2 mistakes, had 2 spins, picked up the debris, and there you go, the engine overheated. That was Ryan Vetter coming together with the Carlin car and bouncing up, but happily not flipping over. That was Tatiana Calderon that he hit. Tatiana having already been bounced out earlier on in the race and already had a visit to the pits, so she's in the walls somewhat today. She's not the only one. There's Gustavo Meneses, number 4, still in 5th place here, but with George Russell, who pulled off some good moves earlier on in the race and some good moves in race number 1, trying to go around the outside of him here. George Russell is committed. So too is Meneses. He locks up the brakes, but Russell has done it because Meneses was too late on the brakes. He scrubbed off his time, although he's rejoined in front of Russell. So he might have to look at that. Did he gain an advantage? Question mark. But anyway, still ahead. Russell, though, has got the better run. He's going to try and take Brandon Mazzano with him. So great scrap going on for 6th position here. There's Callum Ilott in the Red Bull livery car with the blue and yellow Van Amersfoort machine of Alessio Larandi. They're battling over 13th and 14th position. Meneses has held station for the time being. So a couple of trips over the curbs for him, but he's still just ahead of George Russell. Russell, though, is the quicker of the 2 drivers, and he's now going to have a look at the inside into the next turn. And in being held up, he's overtaken himself by Brandon Mazzano there with an opportunistic bit of driving all over the curbs again, right in the walls here, and now into the gravel trap is the American. So number 4, Gustavo Meneses, on a real roller coaster couple of corners there. It's like rallycross for about 3 corners. He was sideways, he was oversteering, understeering, trying to get back on the line, and they were having none of it. So he's been demoted now at several positions, and he might not yet finish in the points. Depends how many places he lost and how much momentum he lost. Brandon Mazzano was the one who really pounced on all of that. George Russell was being frustrated by Meneses, and Mazzano gave himself a run at the 2 of them and was able to get through on the run down to the Ascari chicane. Through into Parabolica they come. There is number 10, George Russell. Get a replay of all this now. Look at this, wide, making a mistake the 2nd time of the lap, and then just trying to hang on to the car, and then contact with Mazzano, and then he runs out wide. There's no grip on the outside of the circuit. Then he runs through the gravel and just avoids the barrier by a hair's breadth. And look how wide he went out there, carrying a huge amount of speed. And these Hankook slick tyres are good, but they're not very good in the gravel. And he just had to hold on to, oh dear, more strife here. Callum Ilott has lost the front nose of the car, and oh, Felix Rosenqvist is under investigation, and there's somebody pointing in the wrong direction now. Is that might be Sete Kamara? Well, have a look when they come back around. Can't quite make out the colours of the car, or one of the Fortec cars possibly pointing in the wrong direction now. Why is Felix Rosenqvist under investigation? Oh, it's Matt Rao, was one of the Fortec cars, and the race is being red flagged. So another very dramatic race. I've had enough this time though, with 2 minutes to go. I suppose there's not much point bringing the safety car out. There is Tonio Giovinazzi, who'll still be the championship leader, but by a reduced margin. Not reduced to Charles Leclerc, but with 3rd and 4th catching him up now. And the Prema Power team, well, they've taken a win. It's a slightly unusual win, but they've taken their first 1-2 of the season, because Felix Rosenqvist is the winner. Not sure why the message came up that Felix Rosenqvist was under investigation. Didn't say why, but he is. So there's a slight question mark there. 2nd place to Jake Dennis. 3rd place on the podium again, Mikkel Jensen. And Santino Ferrucci with his best result of the season in 4th place. Great comeback after the disappointment of race number 1. Brandon Mazzano in 5th place. Good to see him back up in the top 6, where he was earlier on in the season. He had a good weekend at Silverstone. George Russell in 6th place. Best result for a while there for George. 7th place, Marcus Pommer. 8th place, Pietro Fittipaldi. 9th place, Raoul Hyman. And 10th place, getting the final championship point, was Sam McLeod. 11th, frustratingly once again, was for Sergio Sete Kamara. Callum Ilott 12th. Alessio Larandi, despite the great drive-through, will miss out on the points in 13th. And here will be a replay of Matt Rao's demise. I think it was Larandi that hit the back of, and then Callum Ilott was going through the chicane as well with damage to the car. And I think there were separate incidents, actually. Yeah, Ilott just went off on his own. Or was it Nicholas Pola that Matt Rao hit? No, it was Larandi. It was Larandi who was behind. So Matt Rao ending the race there and then. And also off was number 33, Mahavir Ranganathan, into the gravel. It was all looking a bit glum for him after contact and a call to the stewards at the end of race number 1, and he won't be much happier after that one. So Felix Rosenqvist gives the high fives to his teammate Jake Dennis. Job done for Felix. 2nd win of the day, the 19th of his career, and his 4th win this season. So he's now won more races than anybody. He's won 4. The next best are 2 race wins apiece for this man, Jake Dennis, for Leclerc, and also for the points leader Giovinazzi. But Leclerc and Giovinazzi out of this race and not scoring any points. There is Mikkel Jensen in 3rd place. Very happy with that, very happy with his day's work. Taking his helmet off there is Felix Rosenqvist. So the 2 and 4 experienced drivers first and second. Felix with many more years still experience over Jake Dennis, who, lest we forget, he's still only a second-year runner in Formula 3. Mikkel Jensen is the top rookie once again there in 3rd place. Santino Ferrucci will be on the rookie podium, 4th overall, but the 2nd best rookie. Brandon Mazzano comes home in 5th place, and George Russell will be on the podium as the 3rd best rookie in 6th position. And we'll see up on the podium a couple of famous names to present the trophies once we get up there. There is Mikkel Jensen having his debrief with the team. Being a race winner, of course, 2nd and 3rd place is a fine, but it's never quite where racing drivers quite want to be. So you forgive him if he's not absolutely elated with that. But still, it's been a very good day for him. A glimpse of George Russell there, making his way towards the podium for the rookie podium. And their confirmation of the point scorers in the race. 0.5 seconds the difference, with, of course, the safety cars keeping them together. But in all honesty, you have to say that Jake Dennis never let Felix Rosenqvist get away. Mikkel Jensen fought off Santino Ferrucci to take the final spot on the podium, to add to his podium visit from a few hours ago, earlier on today. And there, Sergio Setikamara will be a bit fed up of finishing in 11th place. Now, it's a couple of times that has happened to him. Going to get some highlights of what was a very, very lively race now here at Monza. A bit like the first one, really. So it all started fine this time, because we had dramas on the start line in the first race. So it started off fine, but then things quickly went downhill.